Go ahead and just give us a minute. What is up, Jordan? Do you support Trump?
Yes, sir.
All right, before we hop into our debate, I got a handful of people to thank here. Devin, thank you
Oh
for the $10 over on
my.
YouTube Super Chat. Thank you so much for the love, Devin. And then Command
Oh
and
my.
Hugo with a 10 pounds. Thank you. As well as Milo with a 5.
Oh my.
Travis with a 5. And
Hey,
Dave with a
Trevor.
$10 over on YouTube Super Chat. Thank you for the love, Dave. Dave with another 10 as well. Chris with the 14 Canadian dollars as well. Thank you guys all so much.
Canadian.
As well as Brianna with the $25 over on PayPal. I want to see at least 250 Brianna's down below in that chat. Brianna says, my parents are also Trump supporters. You've helped me a lot being able to have productive conversations with the fam. Brianna, I understand exactly how that goes and how that feels. I'm so sorry you got to struggle with that too. Show some love to Brianna down below in that chat for the 25. As well as I'd also like to thank Heather. Thank you so much for the
Oh
$25
my.
over on Venmo. Let's get 250 W's for Heather. My man Connor with a 10, 30 minutes ago. I hope you're still in here. Thank you so much for the love. And oh my God, Hannah with the $100 over on Venmo. Hannah, I really hope that you're still watching. I want to get 1,000 Hannah W's down below in that chat literally right now. Hannah says, Aiden, it was so great meeting you. We're so thankful for the work that you do. It was such an amazing event from Briar. It was so incredibly awesome to meet you as well. And yeah, thank you so much for showing up. That was especially awesome to meet you, Briar. Thank you so much for the love. As well as Grace, thank you for the 20. Khalil, thank you so much for the 10. Paula with a 5. And Danya with a 10. And yeah, we are all caught up. I haven't read out donations for around an hour because I was hyper locked in on that last conversation, but I do really appreciate y'all so much, as well as Brianna with a 5. Anyways, Jordan, can I get a quick W downers from you real quick?
L donors.
Okay, what about
I
like just a
work for my
W for
money.
Aaron? Just donated another 20 on YouTube Super Chat to W Aaron, right? Am I right? And then Sabrina with a $14 Canadian over on YouTube Super Chat as well. Can I at least get a W Aaron?
W. Aaron. He probably worked for that money. Unlike you.
Oh, I don't work for the income.
Nah, you got soft hands, buddy.
You got soft hands? I guess I do now. My calluses went away. So are you basically saying if you don't work physical labor, then you don't have a job?
I'm saying physical labor is the groundstone of America, and Trump supports that.
No, you told me that I don't work because I don't do physical labor.
Yeah, physical labor is much more important than these TikTok streams.
So you could argue that physical labor is more important. My argument is that what I do is still important and is still work and is still a job.
Nah.
Okay, so what's a job?
A job is something that supports the economy and the United States as a whole.
So what? So a job is something that supports the economy. So just
Yeah.
like the expenditure of funds increases GDP. So I mean, all of these donations are increasing GDP growth. So seemingly, it does support the economy, meaning that I do have a job.
Yeah, but it's not really a job. It's just a
Okay, so
stream
then a
of
job is
income.
not something that supports the economy. So then what is a job?
A job is something that supports your environment that you live in.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, like my whole thing is working as hard as I possibly can inside of my ability to make life easier for as many people as possible. I'd say that's pretty supportive of those around me.
I mean, we can agree to disagree. But I'm just saying you have a sissy job and I have a manly job.
Okay, Jordan, that was the most cringy thing I heard all day. Real quick, how old are you?
I'm 19,
What year are you born in?
2005.
Okay, Mr. Manly Man, why don't you go ahead and tell us why you support Trump?
Because we gotta close them borders.
Oh, we got to close the borders. Were the borders open under the Biden-Harris administration?
Uh, they'll tell you it wasn't, but it really was.
Do you think they opened it?
Yeah.
How do they open the borders, Jordan?
They opened the borders by not enforcing the proper security to keep them closed.
Okay, so they just didn't enforce anything new, right? You're telling us they basically sat back, they just took a lack of action, and they let all of the policies that were already in place play out, but those policies weren't good enough, right?
Yep.
So you're basically telling me the policies that were set forth by Trump weren't good enough because those were the
No,
policies
that's not
that
what I'm
they were
saying at all.
apparently
Because
riding
they were
on.
not enforcing those policies.
So what policies were they
Why?
specifically
Wait.
not enforcing?
Tell me this. Tell me this.
No, you tell me what
Why?
policies they weren't enforcing so I could know how you think they opened the borders.
I can't tell you the exact policies, but I can tell you why are the borders crossing numbers so much lower now
I'll
that
answer
Trump's in
your
office
question once you
under
answer
the same
mine.
policies.
I'll happily answer your question after you answer mine.
So what just changed? I just told you I can't name the exact policy.
Okay, so then
Okay.
how do you know that they didn't enforce policy?
Because the numbers went up. The policy is to keep the numbers down.
Oh, okay. So you're basically saying because there is higher immigration numbers under their presidential administration, they must have caused that with their policy, right? So because we had the highest level of unemployment since the Great Depression in April of 2020 under Trump's first term, he must have caused that through his policy?
No, that was because of COVID.
So external variables can influence things in an economy, right?
Yeah, but
So then how do you know
what's
that
the,
external variables didn't influence higher levels of immigration under Biden and Harris?
what was the external variable?
No,
Please
the
enlighten
question,
me.
what were the external variables, is different from my question. How do you know there weren't external variables?
Because there wasn't. There wasn't a COVID.
So how do you know that?
Because there wasn't. What do
So
you
you're
mean?
basically saying you know it because you know it, right? So that's a
Yeah.
circular position that is ultimately rooted within your emotions, right? But
No,
like
it's
we're
not
here to talk
emotional.
about like
I
facts
work
and
with
research.
plenty of Mexicans, and I hear about it every single day. El Salvadorians. I work with all kinds of foreigners.
So the answer to my question, how do you know that there was not external variables in which influence higher levels of immigration under Biden and Harris, was you work with Mexicans?
Yes, because they didn't tell me
What?
they came here because of an exterior. What are you talking about, dude?
Jordan, I think the better question is what are you talking about?
They didn't come here for a reason. Like, what do you mean? There wasn't anything pushing them out of their country.
In the in the last 4 years?
Yes, that was different
Hey,
from the
hey,
past
do you
30
want to know
years.
something crazy?
What?
Did
Go ahead.
COVID hit the American economy hard?
Yes.
Does America have the most, the largest, richest economy on the face of this planet? The strongest economy as well?
One of them, but I wouldn't say so.
Okay, well, I mean, good on you, because there are some Nordic countries with some more left-leaning economic models in which are doing it better. I want to expect that from you, but hey, man, the point of my question is America has a pretty damn strong economy. It's only the biggest on the face of this planet, but still, yet when COVID hit, we were hit hard, right? How do you think countries south of America with economies a fraction of the size of our own were hit by the pandemic?
Just the same.
Harder, right? So when the pandemic hit, it hit everyone everywhere, right? And the average economic status quos in other countries was decreased significantly more than it was here at home in America, which gave individuals a significantly higher level of incentivization to want to immigrate to America for better quality of life. But when we put that total and complete shutdown of the southern border because of the pandemic into effect, Title 42, none of these migrants could come in through the legal ports of entry. So they were backlogged and they were placed in lines that were years long. When that order ultimately expired, all of a sudden, the legal means of entry into our country were less efficient than ever. And because they were less efficient than ever, those same migrants had more incentive than ever to use undocumented means of entry. And that's why we saw a massive spike in undocumented entry. So, in other words, the
And you think that's a good thing?
problem of immigration under the Biden Harris administration was caused by COVID and Title 42.
So why? Hello?
Hey, Jordan.
So why did the economy go back to?
Jordan's getting a couple phone calls here. Hey, while
I know,
Jordan's
I'm
getting
getting.
phone calls, I want to thank Aaron for
I
the
am not.
$20 super chat over on YouTube, as well as Sausage for the $20 super chat on YouTube as well. Thank you, Aaron and Sausage. You guys are phenomenal. Everybody show some love to Aaron and Sausage. Sausage says, let's put this guess in the factories once Trump brings manufacturing back. Oh, because those are the manly man jobs, right?
I am the
Anyways,
factory.
take it away. Please respond to my claim.
Okay, so why did the economy go back to normal, but the crossings it didn't go back to normal?
So why did the economy go back to normal? So you do think that the economy rebounded from COVID under the Biden-Harris administration, and they did a really good job in managing that? Because I thought that
Not
you guys were the
completely,
ones that
but
argued
to
that
a
they
certain
destroyed the
extent it
economy and
did.
never made it better.
To an extent, it went back a little bit lower than the inflation.
Oh,
It
right.
did to an extent,
Right.
but not
So then you're
back
asking
to
me why like
2016.
immigration numbers didn't decrease under their term? Well, I mean, actually, we had lower levels of immigration in the last 4 months of Biden's presidency compared to the last 2 months of Trump's first term, right? And that was impartially caused by rebounds in economies on the global stage from the pandemic and an executive order that Biden passed. But here, let me ask you this question. I think that Kamala Harris was better for immigration than Donald Trump, and here's why. Because I don't think that Donald
No.
Trump had any long-term policy to reduce undocumented immigration into America. Right? Can you name one thing he's ever ran on or implemented that will reduce undocumented entry into this country?
Build that wall, baby.
Build. So you think a wall is a long-term solution to reduce undocumented entry? Why is that?
Absolutely. It makes the entry harder than just walking into a desert
Oh, okay. Okay. And out of curiosity, where is that wall?
in Texas
Oh,
and
well,
New Mexico.
actually, there's about, what is it, 30 miles? So Donald Trump, 50 miles, sorry. Donald Trump built 50 miles of new wall under his first term. He failed. And then when the Biden Harris administration, right, advocated to get the bipartisan border bill passed, they had obviously worked with Republicans, so it included more funding for more of that wall, which would have been built by them under their administration, than all of in which Donald Trump built during his first term. And he told Republicans to shoot it down. So it's funny because even if the border wall was a great long term solution to reduce undocumented migration into America, seemingly the Biden Harris administration, they were the powerhouse that was going to get the most of it built that has ever been built. And then Donald Trump was the one that made that plan crumble. So once again, even under your own views, Donald Trump wants to increase undocumented entry into America in the long term.
No, you just said he tried to build the wall and it failed.
And then under the Biden Harris
Now, you asked
administration,
for a
he,
plan.
he
That was the
torpedoed,
plan.
and then under the Biden Harris administration, he torpedoed a bipartisan border bill that would have built more of the wall. He fought against building more of the wall than he ever did during his first admin.
No, because he's trying to get Mexico to pay for the wall,
No, he's
which is
not. No, he's never done that.
yes, he
No, no,
is.
no, 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 no. Under the first term, it was paid for via a reallocation by the DOD.
He's trying to get Mexico to
No,
secure the
no, no.
border as well, though,
Wait,
which is why he
but that's
put the
neither
tariffs on him.
here nor there. Why are you pivoting out of the conversation? You
I'm
said
not
that
pivoting. I'm telling
yes,
you
you
why.
are, because you said that what we need is a wall. Okay, I disagree. I don't think a wall on its own is going to do shit. I think that's a baseless talking point for people with no education on the subject. But even if it was a legitimate solution, the Biden-Harris administration tried to build the most wall that has ever been built, and Donald Trump torpedoed and shot down that bill. Why did Donald Trump do that?
Because Mexico wasn't paying for it.
Did Mexico pay for the wall built under his first term?
No, but he was trying to get them
So
to.
then why didn't
That's
he
the whole point.
torpedo and shoot down the building then?
I don't know. I gotta ask him.
Okay. Well, I mean, like, seemingly, then that's obviously not the reason he torpedoed it and shot it down the second time.
I mean, that's a pretty broad opinion. You don't know that as a fact.
Yeah, we could induce that conclusion because he built the wall with a reallocated budget from the DoD under his first term, and he thought that it was a great plan. So why would he all of a sudden switch up under Biden and Harris?
I don't know. Just like the liberals switched up on Elon.
Okay, so you want to pivot to talk about Elon Musk? That's cute. It's not going to work. Stay on subject.
Oh, you don't like Elon?
Once again, pivot's cute. It's not going to work. Stay on subject.
Okay. What was the question again?
You already forgot. I've only repeated it 4 times. How about we try this? Name one bill that Kamala Harris ran on that you think would have been bad for a country.
All of them.
So name one.
The the Chips Act.
Okay, well, she didn't run on the CHIPS Act. She passed the CHIPS Act with Biden in the last 4 years.
It's
See,
pretty
unlike Trump,
stupid, though.
when she promises something, they get it done. So you thought that wait.
Well, no, Trump promised some stuff and he got it done, like the tariffs.
So actually, no, he was really bad with passing policy promise. He tried to get the infrastructure bill passed every week for 4 years, couldn't get it done. Then Biden got it done in his first month in office with a war split in Congress. But I want to clarify, what's one policy Kamala Harris ran on that was bad? Because you said all of them, so be more specific by naming one.
I wasn't looking into Kamala's thing whenever I was voting because I already knew who I wanted to vote
So
for.
then how did you know it was bad?
Because I know she's a bad person. I'm not
Oh,
going to
she's a
vote for
bad
a bad
person.
person.
So you think that Donald Trump is a better person than Kamala Harris?
Yeah.
So Donald
He
Trump is
aligns
a
with my
rapist.
views more.
Donald Trump is a felon. Donald
No,
Trump
he
tried to
was.
religiously persecute and ban all new Muslims from coming into this country during his first term. Donald Trump has hit on 10-year-old girls, sexualizing them. Donald Trump boasted about walking into the changing room of half-naked teenage girls. What has Kamala Harris done?
I don't want to get you banned, but
So then censor
her.
your language and say it with TikTok appropriate terms.
Okay, she went. She read nighttime stories of somebody to get a better job. If you know what I'm saying.
So first of all, I would argue that being a literal rapist is worse than being a prostitute.
Well, no, you don't know if
Right?
that's true or
But
not.
but your
That's
claim
a
about her doing that is absolutely false. In fact, it is just another
your claim
disgusting
about Trump being a
misogynistic
great is
position to shit on the woman because she's a woman. All right? But even if it was true, okay, being a P3DO rapist is definitely worse.
so what's her name? E. Jean Carroll? Is that her name?
Yeah, but actually, before we talk about Eugene Carroll, you told me that you think that Kamala Harris was a P-stoot. We're just going to say that for TikTok. So why do you think Kamala Harris was a P-stoot?
Because she was with that guy.
Because she was a woman?
No,
Oh, okay. Then
said
the
that.
why? Because she was with that guy?
I don't like how you just put those words in my mouth.
Oh, well, listen. No, I'm going to be very clear with how I feel. I absolutely think that the only reason you say that is because she's a woman and you're a misogynist. But,
I'm not a misogynist.
but, I'm willing to give you the mic to prove me wrong by giving me legitimate reason to inform that belief as not being consequential of misogyny. So if it's not consequential of misogyny that you think Kamala Harris was a P-stoot, what's the evidence? You said she was with a guy? Okay, so you think every person that's with a guy is a P-stoot? Hey, man, have you ever had a girlfriend?
Yeah.
So you dated a P-stoot because she was with a guy?
No.
Oh, okay. So just because you're with a guy doesn't make you a P-stoot. So what made Kamala Harris a P-stoot?
Well, you said I'm a misogynist, right?
Yeah, of course. And now this is your chance to prove me wrong by giving me like
The
legitimate
only
reason to
person who
instantiate that
knows
she's
if
a
I'm a
P-stoot.
misogynist is myself, right?
Well, no, apparently I do too. But once again, you do have the mic to prove me wrong. All that's required to prove me wrong is to give me reason to believe that she's a P-stoot. That doesn't relate to your prejudice against women. So we're waiting, man. I mean, you have the mic. I'm giving you a ample opportunity to prove me wrong.
Okay, she dated him, and then when she got her promotion, they broke up. Seems quite apparent.
So what's the promotion?
The DE, whatever her job was of California, the DA,
Oh, okay. So she became the DA of California.
whatever
So,
state she did the bar exam
so,
in.
so, 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 states they don't have like a state DA. There's no
Oh, my
such thing
bad.
as a. Are you talking about a
Was it San
state
Francisco or
AG?
Los
Are
Angeles?
you
San
talking about like
Francisco?
are you talking about the like Attorney General of California?
Yeah,
Okay. So
whatever
her
she did.
relationship. Wait, I have a question. Who did she date to get that position?
I don't know. I don't keep up with that. I just know
Okay,
she
then
failed
how
her
do you know
bar
she
exam.
dated
And
somebody to
nobody
get
who
that
fails their
position?
bar exam should be getting that
So how do you
position.
know that? Oh, but apparently a rapist should be able to get into the White House, and she passed the bar exam. It's quite hard. You should try it sometime, but you'd never get into the door of a law school.
You think
Anyways,
so?
once again, I know so. Once again, so how do you know she dated somebody to
J.D.
become the
Vance
AG
did.
of California?
What happened?
How do you know she dated somebody to become the AG of California?
Because Charlie Kirk told me.
Oh, so if Charlie
No.
Kirk says something, it's true.
Yeah, he actually says a lot of true stuff.
So your basis of like fact is Charlie Kirk.
No, news outlets as well.
Okay. See, this is the problem with America, you guys. Apparently, if Charlie Kirk says something, it's true. So who you're talking about, his name is Willie Brown. He was a mayor of San Francisco 20 years before she was the AG of the state of California. And they had briefly dated around 10 to 15 years before she got that position. So tell me how a mayor from 20 years ago could get her 15 million votes in a statewide race.
Because he put her in the position to get those votes. You don't think so?
What was the position that he put her in? Like the put her in the position to run?
Yeah,
Okay, and how did he do that?
because he was also. A, what
Oh,
did he
oh,
do?
now you have no fucking clue what to say. That's crazy. No, all that you're trying to do is undermine a woman because she's a woman.
No,
Yes, no,
no,
yeah,
absolutely not.
that's it. That's ultimately true. Okay, because if you wanted to have this conversation
I
about
do the same thing to a
putting
man.
people into positions of power to be able to run for a public office, well, I mean, you would be like this independent anti-DNC, RNC against the institution as much as possible. Okay, because we have money in super PACs that we have nowhere where it goes that funds politicians on both sides of the aisle to better position themselves for future candidacies in election. Okay. There's so much money in politics that is put there just to fund people's campaigns. You've never talked about that, but that is legitimately something putting people in positions to run for positions of power that they'd otherwise be underqualified for. But no, your only issue here is with a woman that dated a man that became an AG of a state 15 years later because she got 15 million votes.
Okay, and you're
So
saying
tell
as
me how
that
her
she's a
sleeping
woman.
with a
Hold
man
on, hold on,
15
hold
years
on,
ago
hold on,
got
hold on. Hold on.
15 million constituents
Oh
from
my!
California to vote for her.
You're saying I'm only saying these things about her because she's a woman.
Yeah, of course. Because if you
Okay,
wanted to
but
have a
I'm a
legitimate
white straight.
if you wanted to
I'm
have a
a
legitimate
I'm a white
conversation,
straight
if you
male, and so is
of course.
Tim
So the
Walz,
only reason,
and he's also.
if you wanted to have a legitimate conversation about qualifications for presidential nominees, you would have voted for Kamala Harris. She was more qualified than Donald Trump in every single conceivable sense. And by the way, engaging in a little bit of a hypothetical here, imagine the only reason she was in that position was because she was a woman and she had no legitimate qualifications. In reality, it was exactly as you described. Yeah, I would feel really embarrassed about Trump then because this lady who was only in that position because of what was in between her legs with no legitimate qualifications just was somehow infinitely more qualified than the billionaire businessman, right? I mean, what does that tell us about him?
Okay, can I finish what I was saying, please?
Yeah, feel free to continue to tell me that Kamala Harris was a bad person because she was in a relationship while you continue to support the guy that's hit on children and wanted to exclude all Muslims from America, wants to pass economic policy to redistribute wealth from the poor to the rich,
Oh my
raped a
gosh,
woman, committed
little man
34
syndrome.
felonies, unironically tried to coup and rig the outcome of a presidential election. I mean, it's a terribly embarrassing look for you. So continue to speak.
Okay, so Tim Walz, right? He wasn't. He was handed his position to be the potential vice president. He wasn't qualified for that.
A conversation about Tim Walz is neither here nor there. I liked him, but I want to talk about Kamala Harris and Donald Trump.
No, because you said I'm only doing this to Kamala because she's a woman, but the same thing happened about Tim, and he's a white straight male, just as myself.
Okay, so what I said specifically as it relates to Kamala Harris is you called her a fucking prostitute.
I never said those words actually.
Yes, yes, you did. Quite frankly, yes, you did.
No, I
Yes,
actually
you
did
did.
not.
Yes, you did. You said, "How do I say it without getting bananaed?" And then you went on to describe her as a quote unquote
I said she dated him.
LADEA of the night. And then I was like, "Oh, so you mean pea stute? Let's use that word for
I don't
TikTok
think you know
Live."
what that
And then I
word
went on to
means.
ask you why you think she's a pea stute. And then you went on to describe why you think she's a pea stute. Why you're now shifting the goalposts and acting as if there's not 10,000 people actively listening into this conversation.
Okay, I never called her a pea stute because
Yes,
she
you did.
wasn't.
Yes, you did. Stop it. You
She was
did.
she was she was dating a guy for a raise. That's not a pea stute.
You have no evidence to justify that claim. You didn't even know who he was. You didn't know his name. You didn't know when they dated. You didn't know what he did. You were
Little
just
man
baselessly
syndrome.
propagating the same misogynistic claims because your IQ is equivalent to my family dog and you've been socialized to be a piece of shit by people like Charlie Kirk and other thought leaders on the right. You've been conned. You've
Little
been
man syndrome.
indoctrinated. What is little man syndrome? Is that
That's what you
something that
have.
you and every single one of your buddies that support Trump's has because you feel like
No.
there's nothing you could be on your own, so you want to join a part of a larger movement that intends to try to destroy this country and that gives you this false feeling of self-importance? Or is it just something that you're going to accuse me of when I'm absolutely dog walking you with fact, reason, and logic, which is something you know nothing about?
You know what you know nothing about?
How the fuck you got from point A of being like this newborn sweet baby that had parents that loved you into
I'm
being
very
an
sweet.
adult
I help the
man
homeless
that is
every weekend,
calling
so
work the work I do sissy work, screaming about how a random woman you've never met that ran for the presidency was a fucking prostitute. Come on, bro.
I do more
That's
I
so
do more than
disingenuous.
you.
That
Then.
that
Come
is
on,
so
come on,
disgusting too.
come on. I help my environment, and then I do philanthropy on the
So I
side.
want
So
I once again I
you do
want you to
nothing.
respond to my claim. Who's worse, the rapist or the non-rapist? Who's worse, the person that wants to take wealth from the poor and give it to the rich, or the person that wants to increase the purchasing power of 100 million American workers
You
and the
call
low
him
and
a
middle
rapist, but
class?
why should she wait 20 years to say anything about it?
So actually, let's ask a better question. Why do 60% of women that get raped never report it to anybody in their lives?
I don't know. I'd be telling everybody.
Because people like you exist. There is consequences that come as a result of reporting rape as a woman in America, because there's many men such as yourself that use that to simply blame the victim and act as if they're the bad guy and make their life worse. Shit, she literally got fired from her job, right? She was an author and a reporter for over 30 years. The moment she tells the world that she got raped, she's fired from that position, and 49.9% of her country laughs in her face, votes for a rapist, and calls her a liar. Okay? Do you want an analogy? In fact, I am going to use an analogy. If you were really thirsty, right, and there was a cup of water that you knew was clean sitting right in front of you, would you drink it?
No,
What?
not my water.
Did you hear what I just asked you? If you were really thirsty and there was a cup of water sitting in front of you that you knew was clean, it was your water, would you drink it?
I mean, sure, I'll play along with this, but no. But I'm gonna say
So
yes for you.
you just said, so like you said you'd say yes for me, but like the real answer would be no. So if you're thirsty, you just wouldn't drink water?
I
What?
mean, if I'm in my house and I see a water and I'm thirsty, I'm not gonna pick up the water. I'm gonna go pour myself a cup.
So if you
I'm
were
not gonna steal somebody's
thirsty,
water.
no. If you were thirsty and you had a cup of your water that you knew was clean sitting in
Oh, it's
front of
my
you, would you
water.
drink it?
Yeah, I drink my water.
Okay. Right. Without any hesitancy, right? Because you know that it's safe, you know it's clean, you know it's not going to cause you any
Yeah, it's
harm.
my water.
But if you were really thirsty and you got a cup of water from a river that may not be clean, may not be safe, and may cause you some harm in the long term, would you drink it then, or would you maybe hesitate first?
If that's the only option, I would drink it then.
What if it wasn't the only option? What if you could go without drinking it?
Then obviously I would not drink it.
Oh, great. Because it could like potentially lead to more harm against you in the long term, right? There's maybe some negative consequences that would exist there from drinking water from a river. And I mean, the conceptual point here is in the same way, if we could promote and cultivate a society in which would include no negative consequences for grape victims coming out about the fact that they were raped, and we as a society all agreed that grape is wrong, and when somebody grapes somebody else, they're a bad person that deserves to be granted repercussions and not defended, we would see the propensity of women that are willing to come out about their experiences increase dramatically. But that's not reality. We live in a world where, as I already described, victims are blamed, victims are hurt, victims are harmed, and the rapists roam free with no consequences. I mean, shit, in this circumstance, they were elected into the most powerful position known to mankind, right? And because of those negative consequences that can exist for victims coming out about what happened to them, right? Many people do wait 20 years, like Eugene Carroll did. Many people never report it at all.
But why'd she sue him instead of like taking him to jail?
So why did she go to? So
Him to
she
get
went to a civil
consequences.
court instead of a criminal court because the criminal statute of limitations had passed, but the civil statute of limitations had not passed. Bud,
So she is gonna take him to go to jail eventually.
do you okay? So statute of limitations on a crime is basically if this crime was committed past the statute of limitations, it can no longer be litigated. Right? They have no jurisdiction to delegate consequent reprimand or punishment for that crime because the statute of limitations passed. So her statute of limitations to take him to criminal court had passed, right? But she still had the availability to take him to civil court. So in other words, she literally couldn't, because of the law, take Donald Trump to a criminal court.
So he didn't break the law. Okay.
What?
If he's not being held for it in the law, he didn't break the law.
So in the state of New York, there's a statute, or there was a statute of limitations on grape in the 90s. So if you were to have graped a child in the 90s, right, today, you could not be criminally prosecuted. Does that mean that if you graped a child in the 90s, you didn't break the law today?
No.
Good boy. Thank you for using your last two brain cells.
Okay, little guy.
You're calling me little guy? I'm going to laugh that one off.
How tall are you?
How tall wouldn't you like to know?
I know in that profile picture, you'll level with that coat hanger. Those are usually about like 5'6".
Cute, Jordan. Do you want to respond to what I said?
Who's your little puppy? Who's your good boy?
Not you. You're being a terrible boy. Very bad boy. Now respond to what I said, okay? Or are you like just starting to like freak out and like lose
No.
any coherent sense on reality because
No.
you just got owned?
No.
Of course, yeah, bro. You're like you're like saying, who's a good boy? You're talking about puppies. You're asking me
Who's
how
a good
tall I
boy?
am and looking at my profile picture after I just debunked you. So once again, you said that if a statute of limitation passes on a crime that you committed, that means that you didn't commit a crime. All right. I used a hypothetical to prove you wrong. All right. Once again, the hypothetical was we just got this stream taken down for harassment and bullying. All right. We'll either be back up there in like 5 minutes or on another account in 10. The guests today have been absolutely insufferable. Amy, thank you so much for the $20. Sorry, for the 24 pounds over on YouTube Super Chat. Amy says, politics aside, it's obvious that I agree if I'm donating, but separately as a lover of competitive debate, so much respect and admiration. We were shown your debates to study it and argumentative speaking in school here in Ireland. No way, really? That's so cool, Amy. Thank you for the $24 and for letting me know that. That's awesome. As well as Chels Bells, thank you so much for the $10 over on YouTube Super Chat. And then Sausage, thank you so much for another 20. You guys are awesome.